This week on BuzzFeed Unsolved, we look into the legendary life and suspicious death of history's most famous magician, Harry Houdini.
Oh, I thought you were going to say David Blaine.
You think David Blaine's more famous than Harry Houdini?
You saw the balloons, right?
I was a little bit of a freaky kid.
Well, I mean, that's a given.
I was a frequenter of the Houdini magic shop.
You're a big Houdini kid.
I was a big Houdini kid. I wish I could have seen this guy perform magic. Obviously, I can't because he's dead. That's why we're talking about him.
But he did, you know?
Should we find out what happened?
I mean, we better, yeah.
Let's get into it.
Harry Houdini was born Erich Weiss in Hungary in 1874. When he was 4, he emigrated to the US with his mother Cecilia and 4 brothers to meet with his father, Herman, who had already moved to the States a few years before. They settled in the town of Appleton, Wisconsin, where his father was a rabbi at a small Reform congregation. The family's relative poverty imprinted a drive to be successful on the boy who would be Houdini. By the age of 9, in part to help support his family, Erich began working as a trapeze performer in circuses. In 1882, his family moved to New York City, where Erich began performing in vaudeville shows, then considered to be the top of the entertainment pyramid. Though, at first, Erich didn't make much impact.
I know it worked out in the long run, but if I'm Herman,
Yeah.
you know, toiling to provide for my wife, Cecilia, is that her name?
Yeah.
Your boy comes to you and says, I'm gonna step up, help out the family, I'm gonna pitch in, I'm gonna get a job. I'd be like, you're the best son, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna be a trapeze artist. I'd be like, get out of my house.
In 1891, a 17-year-old Erich and friend Jacob Hyman created an act that included a basic set of card and magic tricks called the Brothers Houdini. In 1892, after the death of Erich's father, the Brothers Houdini took their show on the road, performing at dime museums and small theaters. In 1894, Erich married 18-year-old Wilhelmina Beatrice Rayner, or Bess, who became his stage assistant. The pair toured as the Houdinis, but life as traveling performers was hard. In 1898, the 25-year-old Houdini considered quitting the business altogether, burnt out from years on the road.
You're getting on trains left and right, chugga choo choo, hard to fall asleep on those things, can't even get a good night's sleep. Wake up, you're in Cleveland. Huh? Wake up, you're in Boise. Time to do magic, time to do magic, time to do magic. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine. Imagine if you woke up in Florida. Time to get back on the train.
Please! Mosquitoes the size of bats! Get me out of here! That's the part of the biopic where it's just montage. He's waking up, he's like, what city am I in? They're like, do magic, you son of a bitch!
In 1899, while performing in a beer garden in St. Paul, Minnesota, Houdini caught the attention of one Martin Beck, a man of influence in the world of vaudeville. After watching Houdini escape from a pair of handcuffs, Beck gave Houdini a pair of his own handcuffs to try to escape from. Houdini did so with ease.
Gotta say, a little weird that this man is carrying handcuffs.
Yeah!
Could you imagine if you're a magician on stage and you're like, voila, I've escaped. And then some guy in the audience is like, huh, try it with mine instead.
Little pink fuzzy ones.
Oh, wait, those aren't yours. Try it with these instead.
Sorry, wrong pocket.
Impressed, Beck put the Houdinis on the influential Orpheum vaudeville circuit, which meant the husband and wife would perform fewer shows, but for more money. Houdini's profile began to rise as an escape artist, and he gained admiration for his skill at manipulating locks and pure brute strength.
Don't know if you know this, but this guy was stacked.
Like Tom Hardy?
Jacked. Dude was big. He's a moose.
Like...
Have you seen a picture of this guy with his shirt off? There's pictures where he's like leaned out, you know, like Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
Yeah.
Like that kind of look. But there's other ones where he's like straight up Bane.
Like Human Cloud.
Yeah. Guy's a goddamn transformer.
All right. Truckosaurus.
You'd think of magicians, you'd think of like sweaty nerds usually, like performing card magic.
Nowadays, yeah. They didn't have muscle tech back then, did they?
Not that I know of. I think he was just like eating raw meat, just going into the forest and biting rabbits' heads off.
Yeah. Pulling it out of the hat.
Houdini also attracted thousands for the pure drama and showmanship of his performances. A typical act would see Houdini bound with chains and tossed in a box that was locked, roped, and weighted, which would then be tossed into water. Houdini, of course, escaped every time. In 1908, Houdini premiered his infamous milk can trick. First, a milk can filled with water was inspected by audience members. A handcuffed Houdini was then squeezed into the milk can, which was sealed with 6 padlocks. A curtain was drawn, and the audience held their breath along with the submerged magician. Within 2 minutes, Houdini would somehow break free and emerge from behind the milk can, with it still padlocked. In his lifetime, no one ever knew how he did it.
How big is a milk can? Like,
No, he wasn't squeezed into a milk bottle. This is like a bigger, like a barrel.
Okay.
Barrel's probably more accurate.
I was about to be very impressed.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. I would love nothing more to travel back in time and see him do some of this bullshit. You know he'd kill on YouTube these days.
He probably would, but then it doesn't have the same kind of awe because it's not in front of a live audience. It's easier to fabricate.
Yeah.
Look, it's a trick, obviously, but the fact that no one knows how he did it, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the
This
point.
is a trick that's over 100 years old. You
Yeah.
would think by now someone would be like, yeah, he obviously did this.
I bet magicians know. They probably just don't tell anybody.
Not from my research.
You wouldn't be able to. You're not part of the league.
The League? I've been to the Magic Castle 3 times.
They let anybody in there.
That's not what they told me. They told me that I'm the only person they've let in the Magic Castle in the last 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. How much did you pay to get in there?
They
quite
paid
a bit.
me. They paid me.
That's not true.
It's true.
Ryan, is that true?
No.
Houdini had a penchant for not just creating his own amazing illusions, but performing other magicians' tricks as well, only better. For instance, British magician Charles Morritt pioneered a trick where he made a live donkey disappear on stage. Houdini paid Morritt for the rights to perform the trick and then figured out how to do it, but with an elephant. According to John Cox, author of the Houdini website, Wild About Harry, quote, "We still don't know how he did the elephant trick. He would Houdiniize these more common feats of magic. His mind was always innovating, always inventing," end quote.
That would be like me saying like, hey, nice turtleneck, Shane, asking you where you got it, and then the next day I walk into the office and my turtleneck is much bigger than yours. It's like all the way up here.
I would feel pretty devastated if you complimented and then the next day I just saw your judging eyes, just like,
Oh, you like this turtleneck?
oh, this old thing?
Part of the reason why, more than 100 years later, we still don't know the exact tricks behind Houdini's performances is because he guarded his secrets so well. Though he was wary of imitators, Houdini didn't patent his tricks, since in the patent process, he would have to give a detailed explanation for how they worked. Those explanations would be publicly available and therefore destroy the magic. To get around this, for his Chinese water torture cell trick, Houdini staged the trick on stage in England as a one-act play, with only a single person in the audience. This allowed him to copyright the act instead of patenting it, meaning no one else could perform the trick, and how he pulled it off could remain a secret.
How do they do that nowadays? Is it the same thing?
What, in terms of keeping tricks a secret?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's some like inside baseball stuff for magicians. Only
Yeah.
things that
Magicians, let us know in the comments.
well, I know because I'm in that, you know.
No, you're not. You're not a magician. I've never seen you do magic. Wait.
Isn't that the best trick of all?
No, actually, that's not impressive. I guess if you're good enough, you don't even have to worry about copyright, because who's going to figure it out?
That's
Nobody.
what I was just
Nobody.
going to say, yeah. If they figure it out, good for them.
While Houdini cultivated an air of mystery around his death-defying feats, he never claimed his abilities to be supernatural. In fact, Houdini grew to detest claims of otherworldly powers, becoming one of leading critics of the spiritualist movement that was gaining momentum in Europe and the United States in the wake of World War I. In the 1890s, Houdini and his wife Bess dabbled in practicing spiritualism, attempting to summon the dead in public after researching names at local graveyards. It didn't take Houdini long to realize the entire practice was nonsense.
Do you agree with that?
No.
Oh, thought I got you.
Look,
So talking to the dead.
we're going to get into this more later in terms of what I believe.
I'm very curious to find out your stance on life after death.
I guess we'll just have to stay tuned.
According to famous magician Teller, quote, "When you are a professional magician, you want to see your art respected for what it is, not misused to mislead people about the universe," end quote. Houdini would ultimately go on to attend seances undercover, exposing the mediums as simply skilled performers. He would also recreate their tricks at his own shows, asserting there was nothing supernatural about it. In all, Houdini spent years attempting to expose mind readers and mediums as con artists, duping an otherwise ignorant audience who might be suffering genuine grief. And while mediums and seances were no strangers to public doubt, Houdini's vendetta was personal. In 1913, while Houdini was in Sweden to perform for the royal family, Cecilia Weiss, Houdini's mother, passed away. Houdini, a self-proclaimed mother's boy, was reportedly so stricken by the news that he fainted and wept uncontrollably. In the aftermath, though he had already concluded personally that spiritualism was a con, he nevertheless searched in vain for a real medium to try to contact his deceased mother.
Of course he'd be sad, it's his mother.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
This is important to point out, though, because it's not so much that he overall believes spiritualism is just not real. It's more that he believes a majority of the people who are practicing spiritualism, like mediums and psychics, all that, are con men.
Flim-flam men. I continue to respect him.
And here is where my belief aligns with his. I believe in ghosts, but I don't believe every place is haunted that claims it's haunted. Nor do I believe every medium is telling the truth. But I do believe in ghosts. So me and Houdini are a bit simpatico.
Yeah, Houdini believes 1% of things, and you believe 95% of things, right?
Yes, like 3%, yeah.
I'm just saying, we've been to a lot of places. And you seem to buy into a lot.
Look, I'm trying to conduct a very thorough investigation, and if I find anomalies, I'm going to report them. But that's not to say that every place we've been to has been haunted. And to prove it, I will name one place that is not haunted for sure that we've gone to, and that is, drum roll please,
In 1922, Houdini was invited to a seance being held by Lady Doyle, the wife of his friend Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes. Sir Doyle believed through spiritualism he could communicate directly with his son Kingsley, who had tragically died in the 1918 influenza epidemic. Further, Sir Doyle believed Houdini himself possessed supernatural abilities, something Houdini adamantly denied. Nevertheless, it appears Sir Doyle's admiration for Houdini's otherworldly gifts was at least partially the reason why the two celebrities' friendship began.
Yeah, so Doyle believed that Houdini was like a demon or something that had supernatural powers, and Houdini was like, dude, I just do magic.
But he refused to accept that?
And the guy was just like, nah.
No, you're magic.
You're holding out on me, bro. Well, I mean, I know the feeling as somebody who has a friend who's only with him because of his gift. I have the vision.
You do have the vision.
And I have adamantly denied it over and over in many episodes on this show.
And yet I insist that you, Ryan Bergara, have the vision ever since you fell into that pile of bricks.
It's a weird symbiotic relationship that I could kind of relate to. So I don't have the vision.
His brain is cracked.
I could hear you. Just because you're...
Sorry, your brain is cracked.
At the seance conducted by Lady Doyle held at the Ambassador Hotel in Atlantic City, the hostess rapped on the table 3 times and claimed to be in contact with Houdini's mother. Lady Doyle wrote out 15 pages of messages for Houdini, who thanked the Doyles and left quietly. While many may have scoured the pages for some comfort from a loved one beyond the grave, Houdini seethed. The pages were all in English, a language his mother never spoke.
Let's say you're a Houdini. Oh God, I regret saying that because now you're gonna take 10 minutes to get in character as Houdini. And apparently all that takes is you slicking your hair back. What in the name?
Yes.
This is Shane Madej in his morning dump every morning. Yeah.
Empty this vessel.
Anyways, you're Houdini. This person's saying they're communicating with a dead relative. 10 seconds into the seance, you realize this is a balloonster because they're saying they're speaking in a language that relative never spoke. It's very funny to me that Houdini sat there and let this person scrawl out 15 pages worth and didn't go like, she didn't speak English. The pettiness of this guy, I'm gonna make this person like really sell it for like an hour.
Do you think he was seething, or was he sort of like?
He was seething.
Okay, yeah, because I'd be pissed.
So would you not say anything?
I would be livid, and I would want them to feel shame.
The seance with the Doyles seems to have been the final straw for Houdini, who now set out to expose spiritualists as frauds with renewed determination. Houdini had already written a book, Miracle Mongers and Their Methods, a complete expose of the modus operandi of fire eaters, heat resistors, poison eaters, venomous reptile defiers, sword swallowers, human ostriches, strongmen, etc., which exposed the tricks and trades of various sideshow level acts claiming miraculous feats.
He started off at the bottom of the barrel, doing a bunch of sideshow acts, essentially. Now here he is writing a book exposing all these sideshow acts. Like, what did the sword swallowers do to him? What did the human ostriches do to him? By the way,
what does that mean?
Human ostrich
what the fuck?
is a human who just eats anything, like glass or like a fucking soda can.
Now, my man David Blaine did that.
I'm just saying, it's weird for me to just have him go, I hate spiritualists. I'm gonna come after every sideshow performer there ever was and make sure no one could perform except me.
Well, but at the same time, someone could take him down too. If they figured out his tricks, they could go after him, and nobody's doing it. So I guess he's the best, and if he wants to take everybody else down, then good for him.
Houdini followed that book up with A Magician Among the Spirits, a scathing expose on the spiritualist trickery. He also went forward with a 40-page illustrated pamphlet dedicated to taking down one popular medium in particular, Boston's Mina Crandon, also known as Marjorie. The pamphlet was appropriately titled, quote, Houdini exposes the tricks used by the Boston medium Marjorie, end quote.
For as gifted as he was as a magician, not much of a wordsmith, this man.
Would have worked as a YouTube title.
That's true. A little long. Could have.
I'm clicking. He gets his name up front. You know, he's not just like, the fraud, Marjorie. He's like, yo, I'm in this one. Check it out.
Do you think Houdini would have been an expose vlogger in today's world?
Oh, big time.
With just thumbs of him going like,
yeah,
like looking surprised with question marks on it. Is Marjorie real? You'll never believe what I found when I Googled Shane Madej.
Houdini also began lecturing around the country about, quote, fraudulent spiritualistic phenomena, end quote, going so far as to testify before Congress in 1926, lobbying for a bill to regulate mediums and fortune tellers, potentially threatening to charge those, quote, pretending to tell fortunes for reward or compensation, end quote, with a crime. Unfortunately for Houdini, his campaign would be a short-lived one. On October 11th, 1926, Houdini broke his left ankle during a performance in Albany, New York. Being a goddamned professional, Houdini finished the performance and went against doctors' orders by traveling to his next set of performances in Montreal. While in Montreal, Houdini took time out of his schedule for one of his favorite pastimes, giving a lecture at McGill University about what fraudulent hucksters spiritualists were. After a matinee performance several days later, some medical students from McGill visited Houdini in his dressing room. One of the students, Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead, presumably because Houdini's reputation as a jacked dude with incredible strength preceded him, asked if he could punch the magician in the stomach. Houdini said yes, but before he could tighten his gut, the student dealt a few fast and hard blows.
Also,
I just can't imagine going up to someone and be like, hey, can I punch you? And the person's like, yeah, give you
yeah. You're just like, Jesus Christ.
Oh shit, are you dead? Big fan.
Like, it sounds like Houdini couldn't even get out a syllable of yes before the guy was throwing a couple haymakers. Like, he was just revved up. The whole show was like, sick trick. I'm gonna punch the shit out of that guy when I get the chance. And Houdini was like,
first, I'm gonna ask.
Houdini began to complain of stomach cramps that evening. During a 15-hour train ride to his next show in Detroit, Houdini was in a great deal of pain, both from his stomach and his shattered ankle, arriving in the Motor City with a 104-degree fever. A doctor was brought to the theater and diagnosed Houdini with acute appendicitis and told the magician he needed to get to the hospital immediately. Houdini refused, apparently declaring, quote, "I'll do this show if it's my last," end quote.
Oof.
prophetic.
Yeah, I'd be like,
It was his last.
I'm not gonna do this show. I would go to the hospital.
Houdini somehow made it through the show, and eventually, his wife convinced him to finally go to a hospital. On October 24th, Houdini had an emergency operation to remove his already burst appendix. He underwent a second operation on October 28th, but on October 31st, 1926, Harry Houdini succumbed to a severe case of sepsis.
This is interesting because I always thought it was like, bam, and then he's just like, ow,
Yeah.
dead, R.I.P. I didn't realize it was so protracted.
Yeah, he did another show.
Newspapers almost immediately began to speculate about foul play. With his final curtain drawn at the height of his popularity, it's time to jump into theories surrounding what brought down history's most famous magician. Our first theory, and the most widely accepted, is that Whitehead's meathead desire to hit another person accidentally caused the appendicitis that led to Houdini's demise. However, according to a 2013 study in the World Journal of Emergency Surgery, appendicitis as the result of blunt force trauma is extremely rare, to the extent that there is still debate whether it could ever happen. Of course, there's still the possibility that Houdini was developing appendicitis independently of the punches. Either way, this theory postulates that Houdini was simply the victim of random bad luck, and that refusing medical treatment certainly did not help matters.
If your appendix is not doing great, and maybe doctors out there can holler at us and let us know, if it got punched, would it make it worse?
I'm sure it wouldn't help.
No.
But like I just said, they're not even sure that it could be caused by blunt force trauma. It's possible that it was just going to happen regardless. In fact, this might have actually been, in a weird way, if you want to spin this, it could have been like a lucky turn of events if he went to the hospital.
Yeah, but in the same way, maybe it's unlucky because of the punch. He was like, well, I got punched, I'll be fine. Whereas if it would have happened without the punch.
I see. He doesn't strike me as the kind of cat that would be like, stomach's hurting out of nowhere, gotta go get this checked out.
Yeah.
He's probably more like, I've escaped from a milk can, I could do anything.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, hubris.
Go to the hospital if you're hurting.
Yeah.
Moral of the story.
Our second theory is that Whitehead was an assassin sent to try to murder Houdini by punching him to death. Houdini had no shortage of enemies, whether it was the other magicians he was constantly belittling, the individual mediums he was writing pamphlets discrediting, or the entire field of spiritualism that he was lobbying to make illegal. Perhaps someone got fed up with Houdini and wanted to prevent him from doing any more damage. Admittedly, this theory is a little weak. As we already said, trauma-caused appendicitis, if it even exists at all, is very rare. So it would be a pretty ineffective assassin who chooses that as their preferred means of murder.
I will say, it's a very narrow window if this person was the perfect assassin to know that there's a 0.001% chance that you could cause appendicitis from blunt force trauma, despite some people not even thinking that's possible.
Right.
But Whitehead was a med student.
Yes, but them saying that there's a very, very rare chance does not mean it's not like Smaug's scale that you have to shoot a little arrow into. It's just saying like the likeliness of that happening is almost impossible.
Like,
not that there's a very specific technique.
Yeah, like
to it.
they don't have posters at med school where they're like, all right, here's the kill zone right here.
Yeah.
If you punch right here, this guy's appendix is gonna go boom.
Our final theory is that someone from the spiritualist underworld poisoned Houdini while he was in the hospital. We've already mentioned the spiritualist community's potential motivation for assassination. And according to a Houdini biography, The Secret Life of Houdini, poisoning was their preferred method of murder. Despite receiving death threats, Houdini and Bess traveled without security. Apart from explaining why random med school students could punch him on a whim, this means there would have been plenty of opportunity for a spiritualist with a syringe to get to a Houdini while he recovered from surgery. Houdini was buried without an autopsy, meaning there is no evidence to disprove or prove this theory.
The poison's weird because he was clearly in distress well before he went to the hospital. So at that point, yeah, I guess you could finish the job, but it seems like he was in pretty dire straits. So
Yeah, I mean, sepsis is not a joke.
nothing funny about sepsis. I'm not laughing.
Seems like you're throwing down the gauntlet.
Sepsis. No laughs here.
What do you want from me, man?
Nothing. Just saying, we're not laughing at it.
I'm not. I'm laughing at you.
Are
not
you laughing at
I'm laughing
sepsis?
at you not laughing at sepsis, which is not something to laugh about.
He's laughing at sepsis.
I'm laughing at you not laughing.
Houdini's sudden death shocked the world. The New York Times wrote of the collective disbelief that Houdini, quote, who so often had seemed to thousands to be cheating the very jaws of death, end quote, could die from the likes of appendicitis. If some angry spiritualists were behind Houdini's death, their plan ultimately backfired. Even in death, Houdini worked to discredit their field, as he and his wife had agreed that when one of them died, the other would try to contact their deceased spouse. For 3 years, Bess tried to make contact with her late husband. No medium was ever able to relay their prearranged code.
Cool.
Which is, I won't lie, baller as hell.
Yeah.
I feel like we should develop some sort of code between us that if one of us dies, well, I'll tell you what.
Oh.
In the event of my untimely death, fingers crossed it doesn't happen. If it does, I will do everything in my power to prove that ghosts are real. I will show up at every haunted house and I will paint the walls with like, ghosts are real. This is Ryan Bergara. Suck it, Shane. Stuff like that.
It'd be funny if ghosts were real and you were on this mission and you died and you just went straight to hell.
Would you even hunt for me if I died?
No.
My ghost? Not even in my memory, just like one?
I'd like turn on the radio every now and then. And you could do the thing that ghosts do, which is manipulate the airwaves.
What if you did a spirit box session and it was the clearest one ever, but it still sounded like,
Hi, it's me, Ryan Bergara. I told you ghosts were real. Suck my balls, big boy.
I'd be like, I don't know, dude.
Since we're unable to reliably communicate with Harry Houdini, the mystery of whether he was murdered by slighted fortune tellers or simply the victim of gastrointestinal trauma remains, like the secrets behind some of his amazing tricks, unsolved.
there's conjecture around his death here, but I feel pretty safe in saying that he likely suffered injuries or had appendicitis before.
It's possible.
Whatever, jokes aside, promise me you'll investigate my apartment after I die if I die.
I promise.
Don't cross your fingers. You uncross those fingers. Promise me right now on camera.
I promise.
Are you crossing anything? Like,
No.
You promise what?
I promise that I will ghost hunt after you die to see if you're out there.
We could just cut out the wink. It was genuine.